Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video, and today I have another AOR race for you guys, and this one is for the French Grand Prix, round number 8 of the season. And if you guys did miss the last race at Canada last weekend, then you can check that race out by clicking the card in the top right hand corner of your screen. It's a very good race, very interesting one for the championship, so do check that one out before arriving at this video. Now, before we delve into it, Paul Ricard, obviously a new circuit on the calendar, a bit of an unknown for everybody in AOR this season, and it's going to be a very interesting track and one that I'm looking forward to. Paul Ricard is a track that I quite enjoy actually, even though I'm not really a fan of the most recent new F1 circuits, with Kota really being the only exception. Paul Ricard's quite fun, I quite enjoy it, and as a time trial lap it's quite good, and also in the F1 game it provides lots of overtaking opportunities with the two massive straights. So for sure it's a great race, and I think it's going to be a very, very interesting one, especially because we have a wet race on our hands. Now we're going to delve into qualifying first of all. Now just so you guys know, I actually chose, and I'm going to be from now on in the rest of the season probably choosing the hardest selection of tyres available. So when you load up into multiplayer, you get an option to choose the tyres that you want, and I've always gone for balance, but I'm actually going to go for the hardest now from now on, because in online gameplay it's important to get a feel for how the track feels. It's completely different to Grand Prix mode or time trial. It's just one of them things you just have to get on the track to get the right feel for it. And yeah, pretty much it also enables you to have the hardest compound of tyre available, and you can do a couple of laps on that at the start of qualifying basically, and try and rubber in the track and feel confident. Now for this particular race, I actually I recently found a fix which gives me 60 frames per second consistently and no screen freezing. So I was looking forward to seeing if that would work for online, because with online I have a couple of problems where the game doesn't run smooth for me. It's not a case of screen freezing, it's a case of I run about 35 frames per second to 40 frames. It doesn't feel like 60 and it feels off. However, after doing the fix and I got straight onto the track, it felt great. We're going to see now as we move on to the track. You might not notice it on the video, but I definitely noticed it at the time when I was racing on the track, and it's one of the things I was most looking forward to testing, because it's a little problem that I've had all season long, where pretty much this sort of lack of consistency in the frames doesn't allow me to run at 100% pace. So I was definitely leaving about 2 to 3 tenths every single lap basically on the table. Now we're going to move into qualifying. You can see our first run on the soft compound tyres was pretty good. We go P3, 1.5 seconds off the pace. Not a spectacular lap by any means, but just to get a feel for the racetrack. We then moved on to a set of the super softs, moving down a compound of tyre, and preferably I'd like to start the race in this tyre. However, pretty much I realised that the race was going to be wet. Now I made a mistake here, because if I'd known, I probably would have gone for balance, but then again, you can't really find out the weather beforehand. What I could have done, I did my setup before looking at the weather conditions, and I messed up because I did a setup for the dry, and I was running 8 on the ballast and then I think 2.6 wings, and for the wet conditions it just didn't feel great, I have to be honest. And if I'd known in hindsight, I would have looked at the weather and done a bit of a different setup. But all in all, we're now going to run on board for my best lap in the session on the ultra soft compound tyres. First of all, turns 1 and 2, you want to brake just at the 50-metre ball there and flick the car in. We don't get the best line actually. To be fair, I was slower than my run on the super softs, which was quite surprising. We now race down towards this very tricky end of sector 1, and you want to really attack that right hander there. I left too much time on the table, and then it ruined my left hand there all that time. And then we finally got the nice line here through this double right combination, opening up the car on the exit, open up the taps and let the power just flow through basically. And to be fair, it's not too bad. 2 tenths up so far. Could have easily been another 2 or 3 tenths in that first sector alone. Definitely not my best one by any means. We're currently P10, so we need to improve as we now go into the brake zone to the chicane. Again, could have attacked that inside curb a hell of a lot more. Left a lot of time on the table. Exit was pretty good actually, but again, we've only improved a tenth and a half so far on this lap, and it's not ideal, and we are a couple of tenths down through sector 2 on the pole position time. As the timer is about to run out, we now go through this long swooping right, and it's all about momentum here, and also how big of balls pretty much do you have through here to really carry the speed. You can see my delta's gone. For some reason when the flag came out, the delta got lost, which was quite annoying, but I still kept on. This left-hander very tricky in qualifying online. There's very little grip there, you have to have a lot of patience as we now go into the final couple of corners, and it's all about keeping a nice tight line through this left to really open up the final corner and get your exit. I run a little bit too deep, lock up a little bit, miss my apex, and generally a bit of a scruffy lap. Not my best one by any means. We do a 1:29.0 and we go P4, but it wasn't to be the end of it, as we actually got beaten by my teammate, my new teammate in the McLaren team, Martin G, and he got me there for P4. So not great, not my best qualifying, and I reckon I definitely could have easily got second place, but sometimes it's just the way it goes. You know, I should have practiced a bit more, but also just generally, if I'd known, I would have done the ultras basically in every single run, but I didn't realise until that last run that the race was going to be wet. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. Hopefully we can do more tomorrow in the race, but let's just jump into it. It's time for the French Grand Prix. Right, so formation lap underway here, as you can see, and the rain has arrived, intermediate conditions, and obviously strategy, you can see on the screen, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's just going to be all about the intermediates and, you know, pulling off that two-stopper and seeing what the tyre wear is like. Will my setup work in the wet? All these things you have to find out. It's the first ever wet race of the season, so I'm curious to see how this one pans out. We start from P5, third row on the grid. Let's see how it goes. We get ready for the 5 red lights here at Paul Ricard. And it's going to be lights out and away we go. Lean mix for the start, but we then shift up into standard and then into rich. We get a phenomenal launch getting past my teammate and also Corny in the Mercedes there into turn 1, and my teammate carries the speed around the outside. A very good move there from Martin G, and he makes a fantastic go take around the outside. So currently a Haas 1-2, McLaren 3-4, and down in towards turn 3. Look at this, absolute chaos here, battling side by side. Martin up the inside of Lazar there, a new guy in the league, and it's all about keeping our nose clean here and trying not to lose an end plate if possible. And then Martin still on the inside, side by side, so close. And then just through the right now, we're just going to try and focus on straight lining the exit and trying to get the best possible traction. And look at that, Martin runs wide, Lazar gets a bit of a poor exit, and we get the momentum. We just squeeze through on the outside there, and some overtake ERS along with some rich mix getting the job done. And we now need to look for the break point into the chicane. First time unknown in these conditions. I've got car on the inside as my teammate. We just leave the room on the inside line, but we take the position and we go P2, and that is a fantastic start for us in this race, from P5 to second place. And now it's about trying to stay ahead in the slipstream and trying to make sure we get away really from my teammate as we now go through the fast right. But I lose the back end mid corner and we lose the rear half spin. We managed to catch it, just avoid hitting that Williams, which was so close. I genuinely was scared when it happened at the time, and we just avoid the major contact, but really scary spin at high speed. I thought I lost the back end. I didn't think I was going to save it. Luckily though we did, and we only dropped down to P6. And you can see now on lap number 2, purple middle sector as expected, but you can see all this battling going on in front of us here, and this race has really come alive as we're all over the back of Lazar in the Haas. We're going to try and go down the inside of Corny and Ian Bastien there in front of us going side by side. The Williams getting a little bit loose mid corner, and we get the move done on the inside of Lazar, but he comes back at us around the outside, and it's just constant 2 wide side by side action here, going through the off-centered, off-cambered left really, which is quite understeery, and still side by side Corny and Ian Bastien. We try and go around the outside into the penultimate corner, but there's contact there between Ian and Corny. I try to have a look up the inside, but Corny really, you know, pretty much not scared to go on the brakes late into that final corner. And all in all, just great action here as we now go on to lap 3. A couple of corners later, and Corny in the Mercedes has dropped back a little bit, and we're now on the back of him going on to the Mistral straight here. Overtake ERS along with Rich Mix and going down the inside into the brake zone, but Corny pretty late on the brakes, but he runs deep. That allows me to get through side by side now through the mid corner apex, but we get the traction down on the exit and we get past the Mercedes for P5, and a really spectacular start to this race so far. We're only 3 or 4 laps in as we now skip on towards the end of lap number 4. Everyone's setting fast up to the Grand Prix, including myself, and I started to find my pace and I started to feel very comfortable around this circuit, and I knew I had race pace. The setup was working good, even though it was a dry setup. I felt confident as I pick up my first track warning there for extension of track limits. But now going through the right, we just lose the back end mid corner. First signs of tyre wear, and you can see on the bottom right there my tyres are pretty damn worn already, and Corny tries to get back past. Luckily we managed to stay in front, but again the next lap the same mistake again, and the tyres were starting to go, and it was really annoying me as we get another warning, a second warning for track limits, and Corny actually this time manages to re-overtake. And at the end of that lap I kind of looked at the situation and I thought to myself, right, you know what, this race is not really going according to plan because I've got the pace, but I'm making mistakes, I'm getting caught up in battles, and most importantly my tyre wear is critical. So I came into the pit lane and I thought to myself, and I kind of took a risk, I thought to myself, you know what, there's 4 intermediate tyres and none of them have been used, so I've got my first set out of the way. I've still got 3 sets available. So originally, even though it's a 2-stop race, I'm going to go for a 3-stop. I'm basically the undercut around this circuit is extremely powerful, and running in clean air as well, super effective. So I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to basically do time trial laps and try and go as fast as we can. But then on lap 8, on the fresh inters, we lose the back end and into the wall, and we just unfortunately lose the front left, and we are out of the French Grand Prix. It's very unfortunate because I was hoping with the strategy to really pull something out of the bag. You know, being on the fresh inters, I was hoping I could have actually done quite a good job. It would have been 3 stops, 1 more than anyone else pretty much. But I knew tyre wear was really, really bad. And, you know, risking a puncture was not what the sort of way I like to do things. And generally, I thought there was a great opportunity there for me to do something. And I think I had pace to really make the 3-stop work. I genuinely did. Unfortunately, that we will never know because obviously didn't quite work out. I did actually, it turns out towards the end of the Grand Prix, I watched it back on the replay on the live stream, it did actually dry out at the end of the race. So you never know, could have been pretty interesting either way. But all in all, that is going to be it for the French Grand Prix, guys. Unfortunately, we could not bring home the points, but you can see on the standings though, and we've got the updated standings this time because obviously last time in Canada I wasn't able to provide you guys with the standings, but you can see now Canada confirmation that I got a 3rd place finish. You can see that I'm currently P7 in the championship after that DNF, my first DNF of the season, which was quite annoying. And yeah, we shall see. We go again in the next race in Austria. Hopefully I can do well around there. I feel confident. It's a track that I quite like and I've always been pretty good at. And yeah, Austria generally is a track that I think will give me a good opportunity to try and get some points back. But you can see Ramdrop leading the way there. He's missed the last 2 races, which has meant Iaponi in the Williams has closed down the gap. And then also Collis really coming alive. 3rd place in the championship after just 3 races. Fair play to him. Really good stuff in the league. Duppy as well, who came in later on. And then Julian now is a reserve driver, so he is in 5th, but he will start dropping down the order. And we are currently P7 behind Skatey. So yeah, you never know. Hopefully we can come back and try and go again in Austria. Realistically, I need a couple of podiums now to really start to give myself a chance. And I do want to go for the championship, and I still think I can win it. You know, we are 8 races down already, so I really do need to get my act together. So hopefully for Austria I can find the pace. That's going to be one of them tracks where everyone's going to pick up penalties. So again, in my head, that might be a chance for me. If I keep my nose clean, we can have a good race. But all in all, guys, I'm not going to ramble on for much longer. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, then drop a like. Also, do get subscribed for daily Formula 1 content, and also turn on notifications to not miss a single video from me. And finally, check out these 2 videos on your screen if you have missed them. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next episode of AOR very soon. But until then, it's goodbye from me.